It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Monday, December 8th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another week together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, do not follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have a Provi in the media, the Sunday Message Word Study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? It is a wonderful and awesome Monday. We are starting the second week of December, which means we have 2 weeks left before, we'll start in the second week. So we have roughly about almost 3 weeks left before we're going to get into the end of the year and the new year. But I hope that everyone is enjoying and will enjoy the last couple of weeks we have left in 2025. Don't forget, we have Q&A Thursday every single week, so get those questions ready. Send them to me whenever you can. And if you haven't yet, for today's video, please leave a like and comment to build our community. Just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title, and of course, what a great message, especially to end the year. It's Triumph with Me. And when I heard this title, it's really powerful when you think about it, because Triumph with Me is, if the person who's, like Sunsim who's writing this, look at his situation. And he's like saying, I triumphed. So triumph with me. So it's really powerful to think about it from that perspective, that, like we are with someone that regardless of the situation, circumstance, he's already triumphed. So I hope that all of us can gain even more. And we will go over the Sunday Message Word Study in the second segment. But, we'll get into that a little bit later. So here's something really, really interesting that I think you guys are going to be like, what's going on? Well, here's something really interesting. By the time that most of you in the Western countries actually hear this podcast, I'm going to be in another country. Yeah, it's a short trip, 5 days, but I'm very thankful that I can spend some time doing this. But it's just a what do you call it? Personal trip, vacation. That's not even a vacation, because I'm still going to be lecturing and doing all the different things. But I'm not even meeting a ton of people. It's just getting away. I'm going to a country, so you guys could probably guess too, but I'm going to a hot country because it's too cold in Korea for me. It's hit -5, -10 at a certain point too. I'm just like, okay, this is way too cold for me. So I am going to be going to a hotter country because I just don't want to be in a cold country. But it's going to be just more of a relaxing time. It's very personal time too, so it's not like I'm going there for anything official, just personal. But as weird as that sounds, I'm going because it's too cold in Korea. And I have including today, I have 3 weeks left, so I'm going to just spend 5 days in another country. And I haven't, what do you call it? I was going to say something, I completely forgot. Oh, okay, but either way, it's very, very sudden. So I did talk about it on Friday's podcast. I was like, should I buy? Should I not? And I kept like, should I buy it or not? I eventually just bought it on Saturday. I bought it on Saturday. It was so weird. I bought my ticket 2 days before leaving, right? And it was probably not even 2 days. It was like a day and a half, because my flight is Monday morning at like 6 a.m., right? And I bought my ticket in midday on Saturday. So it's like a day and a half before. I just bought my ticket. And, for me, as I kept looking at the prices, like, am I going to buy it or not? And then for me, I'm just thankful to God that tickets didn't even go up. And I've been checking on these tickets for like the last 10 days. And I was just like, man, I just need to go away somewhere hot. Still do my, I'm still lecturing. Most of my lecturing's on Zoom anyways. So, but I just want to go somewhere I can relax, enjoy my time. Just calling very few people that I know and just going. So I got everything set up so that, I have a place and to stay and everything else. And it's kind of interesting how I'm just doing this. And here's another reason is, because, I'm living in Korea. So I'm living on the Asian side. And, once I go back to the Western countries, like I'm going back to North America, going to Asia is not gonna be a very easy thing. It's something that I have to, I go and I come back and I go and like just going there and back is like 10 to 11 hour flight. So it's just way too long and way too difficult for me to do it. So I'm like, yeah, while I'm here in Korea anyways, and I'll have these last 3 weeks, I might as well just go when I have the chance, because I may not have a chance later on in the future, right? So tomorrow, Tuesdays, every week is Eddie and Rachel's podcast. Hope you guys, I'm very grateful and thankful that they're doing this. And I think it's really good for their future too. Like that later on in the future, they can actually do this on their own too, right? And they realize that it's not easy. It's a difficult thing, right? But then on Wednesday, my podcast will be done from that country. And maybe, maybe it's, you guys can you guys guess which country I'm in? That'll be interesting. Can you guess before my Instagrams are going to show you where I'm at? So, but actually some of you will already be seeing my Instagram, so you'll know exactly where I am. But interestingly interesting, right? Yeah, time is flying by, guys. I can't believe it's already the 8th. For me, why time is flying by even more quickly is because I have exactly 2 weeks before I go back to Canada and America, right? And then, of these 2 weeks, 5 days is spent in another country. I'll come back. I got volleyball training on the weekend and then the weekend after that. And, so it's super packed and busy. But I think the one thing that really makes me feel that this time is worthwhile, that I'm staying a little bit longer, it's not that I'm just relaxing and just doing whatever I want. Well, technically it feels like I'm doing whatever I want. But of course, the one thing that really makes it worthwhile and meaningful to me is the fact that I'm lecturing a lot. And I'm even more thankful that before I leave, there's going to be some people that finish time times and half times. Like 2 of them will probably finish before I leave, which is great. So I'm hoping that I can, for the final lessons, I really hope that I can meet these people face to face to teach them, because of the, there's 3 people who will be like finished, right? And only one of them has gotten slander education. So for me, I know that I need to do slander education for 2 other people too. But yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad that I'm super busy, and it's not meaningless busy. It's meaningful busyness, right? And for me, this is super important. Very, very important to me, especially that I end this year well, doing as much as I can, coaching volleyball, training, lecturing, and all these other different things. Because I know that next year it's going to be, it's the time to run. So you gotta, as funny as it sounds, don't mind the pun, but you got to get off to a running start. Like you can't start running in January. You have to already be running in December and then shoot through January. You know what I mean? So now that I'm lecturing a lot, I really feel like I'm honing in my lecturing and evangelism to get ready for, this big spiritual battle in America. So that's something that I'm looking more forward to it, because, I'm gonna be fully ready. Do you know what I mean? Like I've already taught all the lectures straight through from beginning to the end, at least twice, right? And it feels like I'll be ready to take on whatever it is that God wants me to do. Because, evangelism, guys, it's not easy. If it was easy, I think all of us would be doing it that much better. But, it's not easy. But when we look at the big picture, the gospel is ready. Jesus is back in spirit. The man of mission is here. So it is the time to do it. And just the fact that it's not working out is not a good enough reason to say it's not working or we shouldn't do it or, get discouraged. So this is what I'm very much looking forward to. And, I really feel that for the Western world, the big battle is in America. The big battle is there, because evangelism is not easy, but the gospel is ready. it's ready to go, and it's just a matter of us preaching. And the messages have been saying this for the past 2-3 months. Evangelize, evangelize, evangelize. So I hope that 2026, that we can all get back on track. We can really make a difference, but also, as the messages keep telling us, is you have to refine, make your heart, make your thoughts, do it. And I'm like, man, I got to get this all settled down before I go, because it's not going to get easier. It's going to get harder as we go on, right? Like getting myself into deeper prayer, getting myself into connecting and communing with God, because if lecturing was purely based on speaking skills and not spirituality at all, then everyone, all we need to do is go into the world and find the best speakers and just pay for them to preach the word, and that'll be fine. You know what I mean? Like if it was just speaking, but there's such a spiritual aspect that we cannot base it on anything but the spiritual first. And I'm pretty sure that everyone has had that experience where even though you may not feel that you have lectured well, but the newcomer just was like, they felt it kind of thing, right? So it is something that I look at, and I look at and say, you know what? We got to make sure that the spiritual is taken care of first. And then after the spiritual part is taken care of, what's next? Well, after the spiritual part is taken care of, and then we have to take care of the speaking skills, the power, the emotion, the feeling, right? Like that's all coming later. But the foundation is really, really based on the spirituality. Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys know this or you can hear this, but I am actually in a different city right now in Korea, because I have volleyball coaching on Sunday, and I'm in a place called Jinju, and it's about 2 hours away from Wolmyeongdong. But I came a little bit early, before, like a couple hours before practice, and I found this amazing cafe. And it's amazing because, like, for me is the one thing I'm disappointed in Korea is that you have to choose one or the other. It's either really amazing interior and just awesome cafe. So it's either that and the coffee's just okay, or you're going to a place where the coffee, like specialty coffee, and the coffee's like really decent and good. However, the problem is that it's not really a nice place to really have a coffee and relax and stuff, right? It's just not as nice. But I found this place. It's huge. There's like 2 separate buildings, 2 floors, and they just made it really well. And I would say this, guys, if you want to have good coffee shops, like good specialty coffee shops, they have pour over coffee. Like that's the big one. Pour over coffee is the main thing. If you don't have the pour over coffee, then you kind of lost a lot of things. So if you can get a good pour over coffee, this is where you can get. This is where I would say that you have you found a good place if they have good pour over coffee. So I went to this place honestly without any expectation, and lo and behold, there's pour over coffee. There is. So I'm just enjoying and relaxing during my time here, right? So yeah, I would come back to this place for sure. I would, Okay, guys, I'm going to share with you something. I had an interesting experience, okay? And this is, and guys, this is all about what's in my own thoughts. So this is not about a good or bad thing. And I'll tell you the experience I had. I'll tell you what my mind was thinking, like where my mind was. And I'm just like, you know when you kind of like, when you're a little bit self-aware, you kind of look back at yourself like, what the heck were you thinking? Like, what's wrong with you kind of thing, right? So I had this interesting experience because I'm teaching a lot too. And then there was this manager. Like there's the evangelist or manager of this newcomer, right? And guys, I'm telling you right now, this is actually about me. It's not about the situation. Actually, all the difficulty was in my own heart and my own thoughts, kind of like this week's message, right? So this is how interesting it is. So let me go into what happened. I'll share it with just what happened, and then I'll tell you where my thought process went, okay? So, me being a male lecturer, right? One of the complicated things is most of the newcomers are female. And, this is very, very understandable. Sometimes it's just much better to have a female lecturer for a female, right? There's going to be less chance of complication, for sure. Okay? So as you know, you know where this story is going. And, for me is I completely understand it too. So like, when it comes to the opposite sex and stuff like that, of course, us in this history, because we know this history, we're way more sensitive to it, right? So this is something that should be thought about and should be understood when we hear these types of things. Okay, so I'm in a situation where I completely understand. Okay, when it comes to that, I'm a male lecturer, but most of the newcomers are female. Like right now, at the end of the year, I'm only taking. I dwindled everyone down to 5 newcomers, and that's it, and 1 guy and 4 girls. It's just the way it is, right? So what happened was, while teaching a female newcomer, whenever it comes to setting up the time with the newcomer, I'm always setting up through the evangelist or the manager, whatever it is, right? It makes absolute sense, right? And then sometimes I teach. Most of the times I teach on Zoom, and I think only recently, within the last 3 weeks, I've been teaching in person, right? So I'm setting up my next lecture, and I've already taught this newcomer once in person. And then the newcomer's just like, oh, no, I just prefer to talk to me directly. So I just set up the next lecture, and it's fine, right? So we're like, hey, okay, we're going to meet tomorrow at 8 p.m., okay? So now the lecture is set up on Zoom the following evening. And the problem was I forgot to tell the manager. So I was like, I get a text in the morning. It's like, hey, when is the lecture set up, right? And I tell them, it's going to be today in the evening. This is in the early morning, right? So I just texted back and I said, it's going to be in the evening tonight, 8 p.m., right? And done. Boom. It's set up. About 30 minutes later, the evangelist just shares a dream with me, right? Like, I had this dream and I think there could be romantic feelings, kind of thing. And for me, right away, I'm like, I'm fine. It's good. I don't have to do the lecture. I could tell them I'm not going to do it, right? However, I also thought to myself this. I was like, hey, but here's one thing that's quite interesting is the lecture I'm teaching is the fall, right? Which could be something that this person needs, or it'll be something that completely takes their, God could take their heart away from romantic feelings, whatever it is, right? But I said, also think that it could be Satan trying to stop the lecture, since this person's going to learn the fall. So I said, hey, maybe it's good to double check the dream. And this is all on text, right? And then they were more adamant because like, hey, this is serious. It's about the opposite sex. And I'm like, hey, fine. I'm like, all right. But then I thought to myself you know what? Texting is not the best form of communication for this type of thing. So I said, you know what? I think it's better to call so there isn't any misunderstanding. So the manager calls me and we talk, and everything is finally resolved since we can actually, we were talking about it face to face. And the big issue it looked like was this manager thought I was going to teach this person at 8 p.m. face to face, but I forgot to tell them it was going to be on Zoom. Right? And they're like, oh, okay. And that's like, it's on Zoom. It's like, yeah, you can join, whatever it is. Like, okay, cool. So then everything was okay. So I'm lecturing that person at 8, and the manager's going to join. It's all on Zoom. However, this is where my mind starts to kind of go awry. Okay? Because I kind of look at that. I'm like, I was like, wait, this is weird. And I'm telling you guys right now, this is totally a me issue. Nothing to do with anyone else. This is just me, my own thinking that kind of goes whack, right? Because when we discussed on the phone, they asked me when I was meeting, and then what happened was they said, can you do it on Zoom? And then I realized, I forgot to tell them that it was a Zoom lecture, right? But once they found out it was a Zoom lecture, the tone changed, and they asked me to join. And they say, hey, can I join the lecture? I was like, sure, no problem. Now, this is where my mind goes a little wonky. And I know that I shouldn't think this way at all. And I'm telling you guys now, I'm fine with it. It's just that I'm just sharing with you where my thoughts went, okay? So just hear me out. So these are just my initial thoughts, and I don't think this way at all right now. I'm like, I'm so stupid kind of thing, right? So in my thoughts, I was like, hey, if this was a real dream that this evangelist really thought was serious and true, isn't it better to just cut off the lecture altogether because it's a real dream? But once we've once they found out it was on Zoom, I was like, then what does that mean? Your dream didn't even matter anymore? So, in my head, I was like going, hey, aren't they just like basing their entire thoughts and their dream on whether it was a one-on-one lecture face-to-face or not, right? I was like, hey, if it was really, really a true dream, then you should just cut it off from the first place, right? And I was like, man, maybe they're just lying and they didn't have a dream and they're just using it as a ruse. And, they're just doing this because they don't want to hurt my feelings. Like, I was thinking like that, right? It's like, oh, why would you lie about a dream kind of thing? But honestly, I don't know. It's so weird. It's in my head. I'm trying to calculate what's going on, and I have so many assumptions. Because shouldn't I be understanding that sometimes, like, let's pretend. I'm not saying it's true. Like, I trust that it's a real dream, everything else. But let's just say it wasn't a real dream. But I should also be thankful and understanding that sometimes someone doesn't want to hurt other people's feelings, or they really feel that this might be, like, I might be someone hard to deal with, that this might be the only way kind of thing, right? Because, guys, we have to be, like, real about it. Opposite sex issues are real, and they should be thought of very carefully, right? And, of course, I could say, hey, I prefer honesty and discussion rather than a dream that is a ruse. But then I don't even know it's a ruse. Do you know what I mean? Like, everything is based on assumption. So, and it was just all my own thoughts, I was kind of feeling like irritated, like, oh, why would they do that? Why would they do it like this kind of thing, right? And just a few moments later, I just realized, dude, you're just playing in your own head. It's just your own thoughts. None of it is real, right? And when I kind of sat back, I was like, that's so true. It's just my own thoughts. It really is, right? It's just my own thoughts, and it's just something that it's just all in my own head. It's just a bunch of my own thoughts, my own assumptions, right? And it was just it was interesting because I'm like, wow, that's so odd that my mind would go that far into it. You know what I mean? Because I was even at one point thinking like, well, fine, I just won't lecture this person anymore. And I was like, what a baby. Like, Sky, you're such a baby kind of thing. Like, why would you even say that, right? Because if it's true, and there are romantic feelings, of course you should cut it off. Like, that's ridiculous kind of thing. Like, for me, I'm just like, man, the things that we do in our own heads. And, I'm like, yeah, this is why prayer is needed. This is why we need self-reflection. This is why we need to check ourselves, right? And it was just odd. And I was like, maybe unconsciously, when I heard the dream, maybe I took it too personally. And unconsciously, I was hurt by it. And then, after all this was done, it was kind of funny because after all this was done, what's my next thought is? I'm like, why do you do that to yourself? Why do you make yourself suffer like that? Like, you've just basically wasting your own brain energy on something you don't need to, right? You can just enjoy, right? And believe people, whether you think they're lying or not, just believe them. And in the end, it all comes to fruition, right? Everything comes into fruition, right? In the very end. So I just kind of sat there like, yeah, like, Sky, you shouldn't think like that at all, right? Don't make assumptions, because assumptions, as they say, when you assume, you make an ass of yourself, right? Because you really don't know the full story. I don't even know the full dream, right? Because if you think about it, what if the dream is more about being careful? Do you know what I mean? And it's not like, oh, there is something. And yeah, I think that's very, very clear that if you're meeting someone, a girl, right, 8 p.m. at night and one-on-one, face-to-face, of course those things can happen. Right? Of course they can happen. We don't know. I don't know what's going on in other people's thoughts. I can just be thinking to myself like, oh, guess what, Sky? You're just I could be thinking like, oh, come on, I'm like 2.5 times this person. I'm literally more than double this person's age. But you know what? Has that stopped the fall from happening ever in the past? No. We've seen these situations happen all the time, right? And that's why we have to be very, very careful. And even when I was like, remember, I was teaching the fall too. So when we learn the fall, remember there's like 3 stages of the fall. The first is in the heart. The second, when it comes to touching. You know what I mean? Like, you can just like even hug or this or that. And of course, guys, I know that culturally there are differences in culture to culture. For instance, if you go to Europe, you kiss on the cheek like twice or whatever it is, right? And that's kind of normal there. It's totally not sexual at all. Some other countries, hugging is just kind of a normal thing. It's not like anything sexual at all. But what I'm saying in general is when there's touching beyond what is normal, that's where feelings can come in, right? It's just normal. Right? And that's something that we have to recognize as people who know how Satan works. We do. And since we know how Satan works, we have to be that much more careful too. So I'm just like, yeah, that makes sense, right? So it's there's just way too much for me to say that I know the full situation. And like I'm telling you guys right now is, there is 0 things that were wrongly done on the other end by the manager, the evangelist, 0. I'm just telling you that this was all in my own head. Like that's how ridiculous it was. And it made me realize like, yeah, Sky, that's ridiculous kind of thing. But yeah, I think a lot of us probably go through these types of things anyways, but I hope it's something that you guys gained and understand, or kind of laugh at a bit, but understand that we all do this kind of thing. Either way. So yeah, that's the end of segment number 1. If you guys have a similar experience, go ahead and put it in the comments below. Love to hear from you guys on that too. Before we get into the Sunday message word study, let's move into the first music break of the day.
Give me the word that can save me from myself. I just want to hear it all. Show me the meaning of my life and fix me. I don't want to lose you and fall. 'Cause you mean that much to me, and without your love I wouldn't be. You're the only one that loves me like you do. You're the only one that treats me like you do. You're the only one that cares for me like you do. There's nothing in this world I wouldn't give to hear you. Yeah. I would've lost my life if I didn't know you. Heard the word of life, now I think you're so cool. Every time you speak, I will always come through. I will never leave you cause I'm not a fool. Love you every day, got you on a routine. Cutting out the bad stuff, yeah, I'm too mean. I'ma live this life like I'm in a movie. Got my spirit high, gotta get groovy. You mean that much to me, and without your love I wouldn't be. You're the only one that loves me like you do. You're the only one that treats me like you do. You're the only one that cares for me like you do. There's nothing in this world I wouldn't give to hear you. I wouldn't walk away from you if this is what you want. If it's your will, then let it. 'Cause you mean that much to me, and without your love I wouldn't be. You're the only one that loves me like you do. You're the only one that treats me like you do. You're the only one that cares for me like you do. There's nothing in this world I wouldn't give to hear you. The only one for me.
All right, so let's get into today's Sunday message word study. And what a powerful message it was. Triumph with me. And like I was saying in that first segment, it's such a powerful statement for Sunsim to say it in his situation and circumstance. And the reason it's powerful is not that he just says it. Just look at the fruits of all the things that he's done while he's in there. And even think about what happened in the last 10 years, right? And there's a lot of things from this message where you start to look at it and you're like, like, it's really amazing what Sunseem's doing. So the first thing that I was, let's get into the beginning part of the message, okay? So very powerful message. It says, in the pursuit of the victory of God's history, a destiny is shared by heaven and earth, by the one who gives the task and watches and the one who carries it out. They both have burning anxiety. To be victorious, you must be blameless and not make a mistake. One who does it to the end with the purpose and will to triumph while being patient and enduring ultimately wins, right? I know this is kind of like sharing the heart, not just of us. We only think to ourselves as like, man, we got to fulfill God's will. And if we don't fulfill God's will, it's going to be so like, I feel that anxiety in my heart. Why can't I evangelize? Why can't I do this? But then, the message shares even God's side. And it's both sides. It's the one who gives the mission, gives the task, and the one who's doing it both have burning anxiety. But the number one thing to do is doing it till the end, right? And it's like, yeah, it's true, you got to be blameless and not make a mistake. But doing it until the end means that we do it until we don't make a mistake. We do it until we're blameless, right? And that's why it's like, be patient and enduring, right? Because you need the patience because we're not that good all the time. And we need to endure because sometimes we'll go through pain and suffering because of our mistakes, right? And this is what it means to be victorious, right? We must, to have victory is to triumph, right? And if we want to live victoriously, as the message is saying, the biggest thing we have to think about is in small chunks is, are you victorious in your daily life? Right? Victorious in your daily life. And one of the things I liked about the beginning part of the message is like, hey, when you play, like when you have competition, you're against other people, right? You have rivals. But actually in the game that you're playing right now, you don't have a rival because it's your individual life. So basically, it's as long as you do well, right? Not comparing to other people. Someone who's been in Providence 40 years longer than you couldn't compare yourself anyways, right? As long as you run diligently, run zealously until the end, as a single player, not compared to anyone else, right? Then you're going to be victorious. And I thought that was a powerful thing, because all the things that you do in your life, everything that you've accomplished and done, that's by you alone. And it's going to work as long as you do it. That's when things happen. Of course, we have our opponents. We have the people against us, Satan's, demons, devils, evil spirits, the human Satans, whatever it is, right? But if you really think about it, what can they really do to you physically in this realm when they don't have a body? And that's why they can only touch your thoughts. Like, think about the experience I just talked about in segment number 1. That's all in my own head. That's where I go wrong, right? That's where we all go wrong, because it's about your hearts and thoughts, right? With strong heart and strong thoughts, what happens? We can defeat the spiritual side, right? Because they can't fight us in the body, they fight us in the heart and thoughts. So, we have to have that tenacity. We have to have that resilience, the ability to bounce back, right? We got to be bold and strong, because these are the people that God will, if you're that strong, it's the perfect analogy that comes from the scripture that we become pillars of his temple. We become pillars because pillars need to be strong. Strong where? Not bodies, not working out. Strong in the heart and thoughts. So for us, think about it. We're running the individual race by ourselves. You're comparing to yourself. You're running against yourself. It's an individual life that we're doing all together. And this is what we need to do to live that type of life. And the main thing in the end, like what are some of the things that the master is saying that, hey, as long as we don't betray the Lord, we're going to win. If we repent, we're going to win. If we pray, we're going to win. If you don't change your heart for the worse, you're going to win. If you realize God's will and put into action, you're going to win. Everything is about, we have to be those that win. And the only way to win is doing it in the right way, not being influenced by those around us. Sometimes I have like the Instagram of the people who left. Sometimes sometimes you just feel like, oh, look at, they're still doing well or whatever it is, right? But reality is, what does it matter? What does it really matter? Like one thing I really don't like is if someone leaves and then we wish that they, oh, they're having a baby. Oh, I hope that their baby gets sick. I'm like, come on. Like, really you have to think that way? Oh, I hope their business goes under. I'm like, no, I don't hope that. All I hope is that they can come back. And however, God, you want to do it and whatever they need, let it happen to the way that they need. You know what I mean? And some people don't need to go through that, and then think about it. You're going to make a baby suffer because of what their parents did? Like, no, the baby didn't do nothing to deserve that, right? And that's why for me, I'm just like, yeah, we have to have that mentality, right? Victory is an individual thing in our own life, right? And the message was also talking about in order to have victory, you also need purpose. Because without purpose, you don't know what to take action on. You can't fulfill anything without a purpose. If there's no purpose, then everything you do fulfills nothing. So, the message was very clear. What is the purpose human beings must do? It's escape death, right? It's escaping death. If you want to escape death, if you want to truly become free, what do you have to do? You have to take action on the words of God, right? And this is where you read and you start to understand Sansim Shimjung. Even in the world where there are no iron bars, a person who does not do what they must do is one who is imprisoned. If you do not do what you should do or you must do, you are imprisoned. That's what real imprisonment is not doing what you should do. It's the lazy. It's the people that don't commit, the people that don't do what they're supposed to do, live the way however they want, right? I'm listening. Who was I listening to? I was listening to this interview with Joe Rogan and John Cena. And it's basically when you look at the uber successful, they are doing the things that nobody wants to do. And they're so menial and it's an everyday thing. Even like the CEO of NVIDIA, he wakes up at 4:30 a.m. every day. And think about that, guys. This is just someone who's doing it for money, which means in the end, it's worth nothing. But for us, we wake up at 4:30, 4 a.m., whatever it is, for eternal life. To have a relationship with God, it's so much more meaningful, right? And as I was reading the message, I was like, oh, and this was so true. And I think it's something that we have to think about too is, it's only if you take action will God show you a path, right? And I think that's, something that you have to think about also, right? If you want the path, then what has to happen? Then you have to take action for the path to be shown to you, right? You got to think about that. If you want that path to gain more, if you want that path where God and the Holy Spirit are giving you even more to take action on, what's the number one thing? You got to take action. As you take action, more and more paths are shown to you. And I think that's a very, very important part that we have to realize is if you do nothing, you're not facing these dilemmas. You're not facing these, 2 or 3 paths you need to take. But as you take them, you realize which paths are wrong. And as you take them, you realize which paths are right too, right? That's something we really, really need to understand, right? We need to take action, right? And this part here was really interesting. It's like you have to take action with joy and gladness. Because if you do that, what happens? You'll keep doing it. You'll keep doing it more and more, right? If you take action, you will gain eternal word. I'm like, what? Right? So it seems like, yeah, because I'm taking action. What have I gained? The word. And for us too, is like, well, we don't receive the word, but how do we gain the word? We don't gain it just by going to the message and just going to service and listening to it. Listening to service. How do we gain the word? We gain the word by listening, putting into action and realizing that the word is true, and then it becomes our word. And we have to be those too. Sunstein, what does he do? He takes action. And when he takes action, he receives the word through his actions. He gets realizations. Us too, we receive the word first, and then by taking action, it becomes ours when we receive it. So it's kind of like the opposite. Sunstein takes action to receive the word, and for us, we receive the word, and if we want to own it, we have to take action on that word, right? So, we have to be the ones that, understand that if we really, really want to gain things in life, what do you have to do? You got to take action. You take action and then you gain. Which another interesting thing here is, who is the one that triumphed? Another definition from the message is, it's the one that has gained has triumphed. You have to gain, right? Through gaining, you enjoy comfort. Through gaining, you enjoy happiness. So a person who has triumphed is someone who fills God's temple with what they gained and live using them. But what is a temple? Well, 1 Corinthians 3:16. Don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in your midst? It's you. We are the temple. That's who we are, right? That's who we are. We have gained. And if you want to use that, what you gain, we have to be those that do what? We have to be the ones that go out. We have to be the ones that make sure that when we gain, we can use it forever, because we live forever as those who are victorious. Here's an interesting thing about people who in the former faith that are slandering us. And Sunseem's going through this. We don't go through it as much as Sunseem, right? He says it's so interesting. The message is like it's so true. So here are the people in the former faith not coming to the new times, and they're more worried about us, when in reality, it's they themselves who are in the most trouble, right? Like, they're all worried about Sunstein. They're all worried about, what's Providence doing? But in the end, Sunstein's like, I'm more worried about them, right? They're the ones persecuting, going against the one that God has sent. Who should be worried? They should be worried, not us. Right? We're kind of more worried about them than they are of us. And it's kind of interesting. Is like, that's kind of how things are. It's like, don't you see in the world the same thing happens? Is like, when you look in America and people are trying to defend others' causes, they're more worried about defending these weaker groups, but they themselves are in trouble already, right? So we have to be those who do it in this way. Right? We have to be those that really, really take action in a much different way than we think, right? It's, in the end, it's usually the wicked that try to confine the good. They're trying to lock up the good. But in the end, it's actually the wicked that get locked up, right? So, if you, the interesting part here that I thought was, we kind of get to realize more deeply about Sunstein's situation too. So it's like, when you look at the Bible, Paul wrote 13 books of the New Testament while confined in prison, and he entered the deepest spiritual level, right? Realized the truth a deep way, and he wrote it down, and it's been used over the last 2,000 years. So we see that Sunstein's doing this where he is. So this is number one we know, right? However, and then he says, as for Jesus, by dying on the cross, he did even more tremendous work, the work of saving humankind. And that, for me, it's kind of scary and incredible at the same time, because we're paralleling, look at it as a parallel to today, what Sunsteem's doing. And what Sunsteem says is Jesus died on the cross, and he did the most tremendous work, the work of saving humankind. And when you look at it right now, I think that's what's happening. Sunsteem's doing both. He's doing what Paul did by writing the books that will be used for the next 1,000 years. And then on top of it, he's on the cross, right? So that humankind can live. The sacrifice must be done, right? So we're living in a time of tribulation. And if you think about it, during this time of tribulation, imagine if we didn't receive the word. Can you imagine where we would be right now if during 2023 we didn't get any word? It's that big. We don't understand it. Like we're like thinking like, oh my gosh, it was that difficult and that hard. Imagine if you didn't have the word. You have to realize the size of the, like that's why the message is like, it's a nuclear bomb word, right? So if you think about that, it's huge. It's the most powerful bomb in the world right now, which means if it wasn't that powerful, how many of us would be remaining? If it wasn't that powerful, right? So now, through that nuclear bomb of the word, we come to our senses, we're revived, we evangelize more, right? And that's what we should be doing. And a lot of times in the message it does talk about God judging the wicked, but I think sometimes we don't really understand, like, are the wicked actually being judged, the people that come against God? And I'll tell you, it's happening. We just don't know in detail. We just don't know in detail, and it doesn't need to be said right now, right? But the judgment of the wicked is happening. There are probably some things that can't be talked about right now, but in the future, it's gonna be seen, right? So, we gain. Right now we have to understand ourselves, understand our situation. We are in the world of the righteous. Right? And I love the logic here. It's like, okay, if you're in the world of the righteous, then you're connected to which world? The eternal, like, world of heaven. Which means that if you're in the eternal world, there is no end to your blessings. So when we go to heaven, of course, it's endless blessings. However, what about in the earthly world? Well, in the earthly world too, we can gain. Of course, there's an ending because we eventually have to die, but we can gain constantly if we keep taking action each and every day. Like, that's the big one, right? And the world that we're living in right now, even though we have Satan and the wicked coming against us, as it said in the beginning of the message, they don't have a body. So where's the only place they touch is the heart, which also means, what's the part you need to protect? It's the heart, right? And how powerful is the position of the heart? This part here was really, like, deep to me. It says, even if you decide only in your heart that you will act according to God's will, since you believed God's will, your heart has triumphed. Even if a person believes in God only in their heart, they are deemed righteous. Guys, only in the heart. Even if you say only in your heart, I am on the side of God, I take the side of the Lord, you are victorious. Even if you love your brothers and sisters only in your heart, you cross from death to life. That's how big it is, guys. That's how big the heart is, right? And I was like, dude, that's so deep. If you act on the word only in your heart, and then if your body, does it in reality, you achieve perfect salvation. Both your heart and body come to fulfill the will. Therefore, you must do it with all your heart and might, right? Think about it, guys. Even if it's only in your heart, that's already like half the victory right there. And this part here was like, even if you confess only in your heart that you will repent of your sin, you are forgiven. Of course, not all sins, because, there's some that need to be, forgiven differently, right? But so there are there's some sins where even if you repent in your heart, and don't try to guess which ones they are, right? But, some things you can be forgiven even if it's just in your heart. It's, we're living in two worlds, the body and the heart. And sometimes you need to do it well in your heart first, right? That's where it's got to start. Because even the opposite doesn't work, where you can do something but you're not doing it with a true heart, then God can't accept that either, which means the heart comes first. And that's why we have to make our hearts, right? If you don't make your heart, as the message says, what do you bring upon yourself? You're just bringing trouble and suffering to yourself. And more than, like, if you fail to make your heart, I thought this was really powerful. It's like, if you fail to make your heart, what's another thing that you're struggling with? Is misunderstanding God, misunderstanding His blessings. So basically what happens is you cause conflict and ignorance, and you collide not only with God, but also with sons in Him too. That's why we have to make the heart, right? So, it's really something that we have to look at. It's the heart is where everything begins. because if a heart is clean, then what happens to the body? It can be fixed, it can be used. But if a person's heart is rotten, they cannot be used even if they're outside. Even if the outside, your body is intact. If the inside's rotten, eventually what happens is you have to be removed. A tree with an empty and rotten inside collapses on its own when the wind blows. And that's why we have to attend to our heart, mind, and thoughts, which is our soul, so it doesn't decay. Unattended souls decay. So no matter who we are, do not, don't let the right heart and thoughts cease, but entrust them to the Holy Trinity, entrust them to the Lord, and then we will triumph, right? And that's something that, what is Satan trying to do? Satan's trying to take it from us. Satan's trying to steal it from us too, right? We're the ones who are living and received this 1,000-year history, right? We're the ones who've triumphed, and we have to be the ones that take it to the next level, okay? So take action with all our heart, will, and life before God. And our bodies must take action on the earth while keeping our hearts tied to God, right? So don't do things just doing it by yourself. You got to be tied to God, right? And then we will triumph and live a life of victory. So everyone, what do we need to do? Arise and pray in the pre-dawn every day, right? And that's a life of victory by praying, right? Yeah, that's part of the victory is praying. If it's in the heart, remember, prayer is done in the heart. So the victory happens when we do what? The victory happens when we start the day at the pre-dawn, right? Those who do not pray fail to complete their work. And if you fail to complete your work, what happens? Temptation, right? Guys, we have received the words of the time period. And this part was cool. It says the word of the time period is like what? Lightning, thunder, and thunderbolts, right? But it's worthless if we don't preach the words of the time. It's worthless. We have to be the ones that bear witness as God's bodies by preaching and crying out this word, like flashing lightning, rumbling thunders, and striking thunderbolts. That's what we got to do, right? So, this is the time we're living in. And this is a time, if we don't evangelize, our heart's going to be burning in anxiety, right? So what are the 3 things we need, guys? It says, if you want to gain victory, 3 things are necessary: skill, action, and time. Those 3 things matter, guys. So if we really, really want to be successful, the 3 things we need is, if you don't have skills, build your skills. Go ahead, take action. Taking action builds your skills. And then what's at the very end? Well, action, skills, you're building, you take action, you build your skills, and you need time, right? So, that's why we have to do it in our youth. If you wait until you're 80, what's going to happen? Like even right now, as interesting as this is, right now I'm in the cafe, it's starting to fill up. Interesting is, there's like this 90-year-old grandmother just walked in on a cane, 2 people helping her walk. If you start preaching at this time, you can't do it. You have to do it when you're healthy. You have to do it when you're young. You need the time, right? So, we have to be those that focus only on what we should be focusing on, right? And we got to be prepared. Be prepared to gain victory. Prepare everything you need to do before you take action, right? So, there's just so many things. But I'm so thankful that it's, we're listening to the words that teach us how to gain victory. And this part was really good. It says, as for us, there are various paths according to our actions. But you shouldn't say, this is the only way. Why? Because there are many positions which a person may live. You may live doing this, or you may live doing that. You should not declare centering only on the life of the body by saying, if I can't do this, I can't do anything. Do it while centering on God, and He will bless you wherever you go and whatever you do, right? So guys, your path in this history, there's not only one path, there's multiple things you can do, but don't put yourself into a box and say, if I don't do this, I die, right? Of course, if it's the basics like praying and praise and and doing preaching the gospel and stuff, or listening to the word, going to services, yeah, that's a little bit different. But the thing is, the path that we're taking, it's a very, very different thing. All right, so I hope that that we can break ourselves out of the funk that we could be in, right? But we have to be those that push through. And we will be those that will make it to the very end, right? Remember, this history is made not by one person. Even Sunseem said the reason he's blessed and he's in the place he's in right now is not only just because he received the word, it's he preached it to us and made us put the words into action, and this is why he's blessed too, which means it's more than just one. It's all of us have to do it together, right? So the final thing in the word says, even though, what they wanted in the past has been granted to them by God with a different, better method according to his ways, if a person does not realize it, they are distressed. Such people are anxious until they come to know, whether it's something big or small. If you miss opportunity, it has ended there. Okay? Right? So think about it, guys. Even if the things that you've wanted and prayed for in the past, sometimes it comes in a different, better method. But if you don't realize it, you just become distressed, even though you got what you prayed for, right? And then you just become anxious until they come to know, right? Don't, look carefully at how God is doing and working in your life, okay? So I hope that everyone can engrave this week's word in our hearts, take action on it, and become those who overcome and triumph with the Lord. Amen. All right. So that is the end of the Sunday Mission Word Study. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions or any comments, please let me know, and we'll get back to you. And then before we end, let's move into the final music break of the day.
道を行かせてもっと良い道を探すようにされた。私が歩むこの道は新しい歴史の道だった。神様の中で生きる生の価値と望みを失わずに、どんな困難に襲われても命の道を主と共に歩もう。神の創造目的なしたこの生を奪われず生きよう。光の世界にいる人たちは昼にすべきことを考え生きる。夜の暗闇にいる人たちは夜にすべきことを考え生きる。この世界は永遠な世界のために創造されたものだから、暗闇から抜け出して永遠な命の道へ行こう。神様をもっと愛するなら心の目が開かれて、神が構想した神秘的な世界を悟るようになるだろう。そこには愛と義と光の黄金天国が広がってる。
んな困難に襲われても命の道を主と共に歩もう神の創造目的なしたこの生を奪われず生きよう神様をもっと愛するなら心の目が開かれて神が構想した神秘的な世界を悟るようになるだろうそこにはありと義と光の黄金天国が広がってる
Okay, so let's get into our final segment for today, which is Provi in the media. And there are two articles that came out, one of which is very, very good news. So in this news, it says the court dismisses indictment against defense attorney accused of leaking audio files during Sunsim's case. All right, so it says that the court has ruled to dismiss the indictment against the lawyer who represented Sunsim of CGM, who was sentenced to a heavy sentence. Sunsim was sentenced to a heavy sentence. So on the afternoon of December 2nd at 2 p.m., the Daejeon District Court ruled to dismiss the indictment against a lawyer who was indicted on charges of leaking trade secrets and violating the Personal Information Protection Act. The court stated this case does not fall under the category of important crimes stipulated by the presidential decree in relation to the initiation of a direct investigation by the prosecution, nor does it fall under crimes involving police officers or public officials of the Anti-Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials, the court added. If there is a commonality or reasonable connection among the crimes referred by judicial police officers, it can be investigated as a directly related crime, but it is difficult to see this case as directly related to Sunsim's crimes. So the court continued, in order to determine whether there is a directly related crime, we must comprehensively examine subjective, objective, and evidential relevance. The court ruled that Sunsim's criminal case is different from the case for which an indictment was filed as a case of disclosure of professional secrets and violation of the Personal Information Protection Act. So the elements of the cases are heterogeneous and there is no objective relevance. In particular, it explained that subjective relevance cannot be determined solely based on the standard that the same victim was involved when determining subjective relevance by initiating an investigation and being investigated. So they said, when they examined closely, it's difficult to view it as a crime with a direct connection to Sunsim's crime, right? And it's very, very interesting. Yeah, like this was, they tried to get the lawyer, indicted because they said that he leaked that 90-minute audio that Maple gave, right? But they said that it wasn't enough. It wasn't close enough to the case, right? And it also judged that the investigation was conducted beyond the scope of the prosecutor's investigation, and the filing of the indictment itself exceeded the legal provisions, so the dismissal of the indictment is appropriate. However, it added that after the dismissal of the indictment, unless there are special circumstances, a legitimate investigative agency can initiate and proceed with the investigation and re-indict the indictment. Okay, so the lawyer was charged of handing a USB containing a crime scene recording file to a believer on May 9th of last year while representing Sunsim and allowing the believers to listen to the recording file using a laptop on the same day and the next day. Okay, so that's what it was, and so far, it looks like from what we see so far that the district court has what's that word? Has dismissed the indictment. Okay, so that's really, really good news. Of course, it's not over yet unless they do like a special investigation that could make a re-indictment. But at the moment, that's the first good news, that the court has ruled it not. They've dismissed it and it's not going to be tried. Okay, so that's the first news. Second news is Maple is actually out in the news again, and it's because she's pregnant, right? So Maple, I didn't know she's only 30, but basically she kind of posted herself pregnant on social media, and basically she says she was someone who didn't want to have a baby before, but now that she's having one, she feels that she's very happy and such. But yeah, that's like the only two news that we see right now. And that's kind of all I have to report. So if you have any questions or anything else, or other news you think is important, which I don't think it's hard to find, because I'm finding it really hard to find even in Korea. But that's the two news that we have for this week. Hope you guys helps you to pray even more and better, that justice will be served and that God will judge the wicked and those that came against him, and that we will be those that will really be able to take this to the next level. Okay, so there it is, guys. That is the end of today's Monday podcast. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. Hope you guys have an amazing and awesome week. And yes, I will be in another country from the Wednesday podcast tomorrow. I hope you guys enjoy the podcast with Eddie and Rachel. All right, everyone, have a wonderful Monday, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm